Hello, a warm good day for you all. My dear student, today would like to discuss about rain and rivers, which is second chapter in 7th class. As we know, all over the world there is 71% of the water is covering. As you know, the water is very essential in terms of the mankind. Of course, not mankind, for every creature the water is very important. But children, the water is not available uniformly across the world, nor the water is availability of the world is not uniformly over the year. The water availability changes from place to place in the world. Some places there is much water, some places a drought condition will be there. Children, today would like to discuss about different aspects of the rain and rivers. My dear students, let us examine evaporation. Let us take one example. Usually during the month of the winter months, when we woke up early, we would like to take a bath with hot water. So we will keep this the water pot into the fire. Once we lit the fire under the pot, some time later the water heated up. And as we know, we keep the lid on the top of the bowl. After some time, if you open the lid, some of the droplets may stuck into the top of the lid. What take place here? Here, if you observe, the water evaporates here and it reaches to the top of the and under the lid. Once the water reaches the top of the lid, with the effect of the outside cool air, the entire water vapor become the droplets. My dear students, as I said the rain, the story of the rain may start from the water vapor. Let us examine some of the example. When we keep the wet cloths, when we keep the wet cloths in the outside, some time later the wet cloths may become the dry cloths. If you keep some water on the plate, and if you pour some water on the plate and keep it outside, a few days later the water disappears. What happens here? The wet in the cloths and the water in the plates may disappear. What take place here? Here the evaporation is take place. So if you observe here, the evaporation is take place not by heating up the water. Without heating up the water, the evaporation also take place. So if you observe, children, we have lot of big water bodies across the world, like oceans, seas, lakes, rivers and ponds. These are the big water bodies. And across the year, continuously these water bodies started to evaporate. Once this evaporation is taking place, these entire water vapor may reaches to the upper layers. As you know, in our atmosphere, a small dust particles will be there. In around these dust particles, these water vapor will form, and these are all nothing but a moisture laden clouds. As you know, these moisture laden clouds moving from the big water bodies like seas and ocean, once it reaches to the some other place, the cool breeze may face these clouds. So here the condensation is taking place. Condensation is what? Nothing but the water vapor become the droplets. So once the cool breeze faces these clouds, the clouds started to lose, or we can say the dust particles started to lose to hold its vapor. So these vapor started to become droplets. This process is known as a condensation. So these condensation, due to these condensation, the water may reach to the earth. My dear students, let us examine some of the important terms in this process. First one is evaporation. The process of water become into the vapor is known as a evaporation. In this process, the vapor once the vapor wanted to become as a droplets, it is called as a condensation. What it is? Condensation. Evaporation means what? The water becomes into a vapor is known as a evaporation. Once the this vapor started to become the droplets is known as a condensation. Next one, children, water cycle. This is another important term. The water cycle started with the evaporation. The process of water cycle starts with the evaporation. Once evaporation take place, especially in heavy water bodies, this entire vapor may reach it into the upper layers. Over there, it forms like a clouds. As I told you, these dust particles in the atmosphere will hold the moisture. Once it condensed, the precipitation may take place. Precipitation is nothing but a rain, fog, hail, sleet, snow. Once this precipitation reaches to the earth, the water may run off. This water may reaches to the lakes, oceans, seas, rivers. And again, this entire water may reaches into the big water bodies like seas and oceans. Again, the water may evaporate. So this is the cycle of water cycle. My dear student, next important term is precipitation. Different form of the condensation is known as a precipitation. Here condensation means what? The water becomes into the vapor becomes into the water is known as a condensation. Different form of the condensation is known as a precipitation. Precipitation may in different forms like rain, fog, hail, snow, sleet. These are all known as a precipitation. These are all known as a what? Precipitation. Next important term is humidity. What it is? Humidity. What is meant by humidity? The water vapor presence in the atmosphere is known as a humidity. The amount of the water vapor presence in the atmosphere is known as a humidity. My dear students, when temperature and humidity are both high, we feel uncomfortable. Our sweat does not evaporate. We feel sticky, sultry, uncomfortable. This process is known as a what? Humidity. What it is? Humidity. So we have learned various terms: evaporation, precipitation, condensation, humidity. These are the important terms. Okay, my dear students, let us examine about winds and clouds. Since evaporation is taking place across the world, especially great water bodies like oceans and seas, these clouds, once evaporation reaches to the upper layers, these clouds are formed. These clouds will give much rainfall in the oceans and seas only. So why does these clouds give rainfall in inland? That is one point here. Generally, these clouds will transform, or these clouds will move from one place to another place. But how does these clouds will move? Who pushes these clouds from oceans to the inland? That is one question. Here for that one process is there. These clouds will transform by the winds. Remind you, these clouds will transform by the winds. For example, each and every year in India, especially in the month of the June, we will get monsoon rains. So these monsoon rains, these monsoon time, these monsoon winds will blow towards the India. These monsoon winds will bring the clouds from the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal to India. So let us see how these moisture laden winds comes to India. Let us see. Let me draw the India map. Children, this is the Sri Lanka and this is our country India. Children, this is Arabian Sea and this is Bay of Bengal. As you know, most of these clouds will come from the great water bodies like Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. During the month of the June, the monsoon wind blew through this direction. This is southwest direction. Southwest direction. So this is north and this is east, west, south. This direction, monsoon winds will blow to the India. So they will enter into the India through this direction. Another branch of the winds also enter into this direction, Bay of Bengal to India. So these two branches enter into India. So in the month of the June first week, these winds enter into India and these winds will cover the entire India at the end of the June. Remind you children, these winds comes from the what? Oceans and seas. Whereas in oceans and seas, much evaporation is taking place.